university's forbidden wing. All right, so this story comes from a guy named Dave. He had a terrifying experience at his university that he still can't fully explain. Dave wasn't the type to believe in ghosts or anything supernatural, but what he went through during his last year at college changed his perspective completely. Dave was a senior at a large university, known for its sprawling campus and old, historic buildings. Some of the buildings were so old that they were no longer in use, left to decay as the university expanded and modernized. One of these buildings was the old Science Hall, a massive Gothic-style structure that had been abandoned for decades. The old Science Hall had a reputation. Students whispered about it being haunted, and there were countless stories of strange noises, flickering lights, and even ghost sightings. Dave never paid much attention to these rumors. He was focused on his studies and didn't have time for ghost stories. One evening, Dave was in the library studying for a big exam. It was late, and the library was nearly empty. As he packed up his things to leave, he overheard a conversation between two students. They were talking about a hidden tunnel that supposedly connected the old Science Hall to the rest of the campus. Intrigued, Dave decided to check it out. He had always been curious about the old building, and this seemed like a perfect opportunity to explore it. The next night, Dave grabbed a flashlight and headed to the old Science Hall. The building loomed in the darkness, its tall spires casting eerie shadows. The front doors were locked, but Dave found a side window that was slightly ajar. He pried it open and climbed inside. The air inside was cold and musty, and the floors were covered in a thick layer of dust. Dave made his way through the dark hallways, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. He wandered through empty classrooms and labs, the remnants of old experiments scattered about. The place felt like a time capsule, frozen in the past. After a while, Dave found a staircase leading down to the basement. He descended cautiously, each step echoing in the silence. At the bottom, he found a heavy wooden door with a rusty padlock. Using a crowbar he had brought along, he managed to break the lock and push the door open. The tunnel was long and narrow, the walls lined with old, rusted pipes. Dave's footsteps echoed as he walked, and he felt a growing sense of unease. The air grew colder the further he went, and he started to hear strange noises, faint whispers and distant footsteps. After what felt like an eternity, Dave reached the end of the tunnel. It opened into a large, dimly lit room. The walls were lined with shelves filled with old books and dusty equipment. In the center of the room was a large table covered with papers and strange artifacts. Dave approached the table and started to examine the papers. They were old research notes, detailing bizarre experiments that had been conducted in the building. The notes spoke of attempts to contact spirits and harness supernatural forces. Dave's heart raced as he realized he was standing in what must have been the heart of the university's darkest secrets. As he read, he heard a noise behind him. He turned and saw a shadowy figure standing in the doorway. The figure was tall and gaunt, with hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness. Dave's blood ran cold as the figure stepped into the room. "You shouldn't be here," the figure said in a voice that was barely more than a whisper. "This place is not for the living." Panic set in, and Dave turned to run. He sprinted back through the tunnel, the figure's footsteps echoing behind him. He burst through the door and up the stairs, not stopping until he was out of the building and back on the main campus. The next day, Dave tried to tell his friends what had happened, but they didn't believe him. They thought he was making it up or had imagined the whole thing. But Dave knew what he had seen and heard. He couldn't shake the feeling of dread that hung over him. He went to the campus security and reported what he had found, but when they investigated, the tunnel was gone. The door in the basement was sealed, and there was no sign of the room or the figure he had encountered. To this day, Dave still has nightmares about that night. He avoids the old Science Hall and warns others to stay away. Some places are better left undisturbed, and the secrets they hold should remain buried. He hopes that by sharing his story, he can help others avoid the same fate and remind them that sometimes curiosity can lead to terrifying discoveries. If you like this content, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.